She stood there in a room full of millionaires wearing a dress that cost less than their shoes. They whispered. They laughed. They called her a nobody, a gold digger, a mistake. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly know, was that the woman they were mocking had 3 degrees from the world's top universities and a mind that would put most of them to shame. In exactly 14 minutes, she would stand at that microphone and say something that would change everything. Something that would go viral across the world. Something that would make grown men apologize and powerful women resign from their positions. This is the true story of a girl from a council flat who married a billionaire and taught the elite a lesson they would never forget. Stay with me, because what happens next will give you chills. Welcome to Voice of Granny. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. You know that feeling when everyone in the room is staring at you? When you can hear the whispers, feel the judgment, and sense that nobody thinks you belong there. That's exactly how it felt for Sarah Bennett on that cold evening in London. Picture this: the Grand Hallway Hotel. Crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls. Men in suits that cost more than most people's cars. Women dripping in diamonds that could pay off someone's mortgage. And there, standing next to Daniel Wright, the tech billionaire who had just revolutionized artificial intelligence, was Sarah. She wore a simple navy dress. No jewelry except her wedding ring. Her shoes were comfortable flats, not designer heels. And her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, nothing fancy. The whispers started the moment she walked in. Is that his wife? She looks so ordinary. What was he thinking? Let me take you back 6 months earlier, because this story, this beautiful, painful, triumphant story, it didn't start in that ballroom. It started in a small community center in East London. Daniel Wright had everything. At 38 years old, he had built Tech Vision, a company worth £12 billion. He had invented systems that changed how hospitals operated, how schools taught children, how cities managed traffic. His face was on magazine covers. His name was spoken in boardrooms across the world. But Daniel had a problem. He was lonely. Sure, he met people every day. Business partners, investors, models, actresses, people who smiled at his money and his power. But nobody who smiled at him. Just him. One Tuesday afternoon, Daniel's assistant convinced him to visit a community center that Tech Vision had donated computers to. He didn't want to go. He had meetings, important meetings. But his assistant insisted it would be good publicity. So he went. And that's where he met Sarah. She was teaching a coding class to teenagers. Kids from rough neighborhoods. Kids who couldn't afford expensive courses or fancy schools. Sarah was standing at the front of the room, her voice patient and encouraging, explaining algorithms in a way that made them sound simple. Daniel stood at the back of the room, watching. He was supposed to give a speech, shake some hands, take some photos. But he couldn't stop watching Sarah teach. After the class ended, he approached her. "That was impressive," he said. "How you explain those concepts? Very clear." Sarah looked at him, surprised. "Thank you. Are you here for the donation ceremony?" "I am. I'm Daniel Wright." "I know who you are," Sarah said, and there was no awe in her voice. No excitement. Just simple recognition. "Thank you for the computers. The kids really needed them." Daniel found himself wanting to keep talking to her. "How long have you been teaching here?" 5 years. "I volunteer every Tuesday and Thursday." "What do you do the rest of the time?" Sarah smiled. "I work at the university. Research department." That was all she said. She didn't elaborate. Didn't try to impress him. And Daniel found that incredibly refreshing. "Would you like to get coffee sometime?" he asked. Sarah studied him for a moment. "Why?" The question caught him off guard. "Why?" "Yes. Why do you want to get coffee with me?" "You don't know me." Daniel laughed. He couldn't remember the last time someone had questioned his intentions so directly. "Because I'd like to get to know you." "All right," Sarah said. "But only if we don't talk about money or business. Just normal conversation." "Deal." They met for coffee the next week. Then dinner the week after. Then walks in the park. Museum visits. Bookstore browsing. And Daniel discovered something amazing. Sarah was brilliant. She had a PhD in computer science from Cambridge. A master's degree in mathematics. Another master's in engineering. She had published papers that Daniel himself had read and admired, though he hadn't known her name at the time. She worked as a senior research scientist at Imperial College London, developing accessibility technology for people with disabilities. But she never bragged, never showed off. She just talked about her work with quiet passion, the way someone talks about something they love. Why don't you work in the private sector? Daniel asked one evening over dinner. You could make 10 times what you make now. Sarah shrugged. Money isn't everything. I like what I do. I like knowing my research helps people who actually need it. Daniel fell in love with her right then and there. 3 months later, he proposed. They were sitting in her tiny flat in East London, eating takeaway Chinese food and watching a documentary about space exploration. Marry me, he said suddenly. Sarah looked at him, chopsticks frozen halfway to her mouth. What? Marry me. I love you. I love how smart you are. I love how kind you are. I love that you don't care about my money or my company. I love that you look at me like I'm just a person. Please marry me. Sarah put down her chopsticks. Daniel, your world and my world are very different. I don't care. Your friends won't accept me. Then they're not really my friends. This won't be easy. I know, but I want to do it anyway. With you. Sarah smiled, and there were tears in her eyes. Okay, yes, let's do this. The wedding was small. Just close friends and family. Daniel's business partners sent expensive gifts, but made excuses about why they couldn't attend. His mother came but spent the whole ceremony looking like she was at a funeral. The gossip websites exploded. Tech billionaire marries unknown woman. Daniel writes mysterious wife. Who is Sarah Bennett? From rags to riches, gold digger or true love? Sarah read the articles and tried to laugh them off. But they hurt. Of course they hurt. And now, 6 months after their wedding, she was about to face all of those people who had whispered and judged and assumed they knew her story. The annual Tech Vision Gala was about to begin. Let me tell you something about wealthy people. Not all of them, but enough of them. They have this way of looking at you that makes you feel small. Not with anger, not with obvious cruelty, just with this cold, dismissive glance that says, "You don't matter." Sarah felt that look the moment she entered the ballroom. Daniel squeezed her hand. You okay? I'm fine, she lied. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. The room was massive. Marble floors, gold accents, tables decorated with flowers that probably cost more than her monthly rent used to be. And everywhere, people in expensive clothes, holding champagne glasses, talking in clusters. They were all staring at her. Daniel, darling. A woman's voice cut through the noise like a knife. Her name was Catherine Ashford. Old money, old family. She had known Daniel since they were children, and she had made it very clear at the wedding that she thought he was making a terrible mistake. Catherine, Daniel said politely. Catherine air-kissed both his cheeks, then turned to Sarah. Her smile was cold. Sarah, how lovely to see you again. Hello, Catherine. That's such an interesting dress, Catherine said, her eyes scanning Sarah from head to toe. Very practical. Sarah felt her cheeks burn. Thank you. You must be so overwhelmed by all of this, Catherine continued, waving her hand at the ballroom. I mean, it's quite different from what you're used to, isn't it? It is different, Sarah admitted. Well, don't worry, dear. Just stick close to Daniel and smile. That's all you really need to do tonight. Catherine patted Sarah's arm like she was a child, then glided away. Daniel's jaw was tight. I'm sorry. It's fine, Sarah interrupted. I knew this would happen, but it wasn't fine. It got worse. At dinner, they were seated at the main table. Sarah found herself across from Robert Lancaster, a venture capitalist, and his wife Penelope. Next to them sat Margaret Chun, a tech entrepreneur, and her husband. The conversation started innocently enough. Business talk, market trends, new technologies. Sarah listened quietly, eating her food. Then Penelope turned to her with a bright, fake smile. So Sarah, what do you do? I'm a research scientist at Imperial College. Penelope blinked. Oh, how nice. What kind of research? Accessibility technology. I develop systems to help people with disabilities use computers more easily. Oh, how sweet, Penelope said in that tone that made sweet sound like an insult. That's like charity work, isn't it? It's research, Sarah said calmly. Published research. We're working on some exciting projects. Robert leaned forward. But tell me, Sarah, what made Daniel fall for you? I mean, no offense, but he could have married anyone. Models, actresses, other tech founders. What was it about you? The table went silent. Even the people at nearby tables seemed to pause their conversations. Daniel's face turned red. Robert, that's completely inappropriate. It's okay, Sarah said, putting her hand on Daniel's arm. She looked at Robert steadily. He fell in love with me because I treated him like a person, not a bank account. Robert smirked. How romantic. Margaret laughed, a high, tinkling sound. Well, I suppose some men do prefer the simple life. Nothing wrong with that. More laughter around the table. Polite. Cutting. Cruel. Sarah felt something crack inside her chest. Not break. Just crack. Like a window getting its first fracture before it shatters. But she didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just smiled and took a sip of water. Because she knew something they didn't. After dinner, the speeches began. Daniel stood at the podium and talked about TechVision's new initiatives. About innovation. About changing the world through technology. Then he said something that made Sarah's stomach drop. This year, we're launching something different. Something personal. We're starting the TechVision Accessibility Foundation. This foundation will fund research into technology that helps people with disabilities. And I'm proud to say that this entire program was designed by someone who understands this field better than anyone I know. My wife, Sarah. The room erupted in polite applause. But Sarah could hear the whispers. She designed it? What does she know about running a foundation? This is embarrassing. Daniel smiled at her from the podium. Sarah, would you like to say a few words? No, she didn't want to. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to go home to her tiny flat and her comfortable clothes and her quiet life. But she stood up anyway. Every step toward the podium felt like walking through water. Heavy, difficult. The room seemed to grow bigger with each step, the faces multiplying, the judgment pressing down on her shoulders. She reached the microphone, took a breath, and then she spoke. Thank you, Daniel. Her voice came out quieter than she intended. She cleared her throat and tried again. I know many of you are surprised to see me here tonight. I know I don't look like I belong. I'm not from your world. I didn't grow up going to galas or charity events. I grew up in a council flat in East London with my mum, who worked as a cleaner. The room was silent now. Really silent. My mum couldn't afford to send me to a fancy school. But she worked double shifts so I could have books. So I could have a computer. So I could have a chance. Sarah's hands were shaking on the podium. She gripped it tighter. I studied every single day. I worked harder than everyone around me because I had to. I earned scholarships. I worked part-time jobs. I slept 4 hours a night for years. And I earned 3 degrees. Not because I wanted to impress anyone, but because I wanted to prove to myself that where you start doesn't determine where you finish. The silence was deafening. And that's what this foundation is about. Giving people a chance. People who work hard but don't have connections. People who are brilliant but don't have money. People who deserve to be seen. Sarah paused at the podium and looked out at the sea of faces. Some looked shocked. Some looked uncomfortable. A few looked genuinely moved. But most looked skeptical. She took another breath and continued. I know what some of you think of me. I've read the articles. I've heard the whispers. Gold digger. Nobody. A mistake. And honestly, for a while those words hurt. They kept me up at night. Made me question whether I belonged in Daniel's life. Daniel was watching her from his seat, his eyes full of emotion. But then I realized something. Your opinion of me says more about you than it does about me. Because I know who I am. I know what I've accomplished. I know that I've published research papers that have been cited thousands of times. I know that the technology I've developed is being used in hospitals and schools right now, helping real people live better lives. Her voice was getting stronger now, more confident. I didn't need Daniel's money. I have my own career, my own achievements, my own life. I married him because I love him, because he's kind and generous and he sees people for who they really are, not for what they can do for him. Sarah looked directly at Catherine Ashford, who was staring at her with wide eyes. So no, I don't belong to your world. I don't want to, because your world judges people by their clothes and their connections instead of their character. Your world thinks success means money instead of meaning. Your world has forgotten that kindness costs nothing, but means everything. The room was absolutely still. You could have heard a pin drop. This foundation will help people like me. People who have talent and drive but need support. People who deserve a chance to show the world what they can do. And if that makes you uncomfortable, if that challenges your assumptions about who deserves success, then good. It's time those assumptions were challenged. Sarah stepped away from the microphone. For a moment, nothing happened. Then someone started clapping. Slowly at first. Then others joined in. And within seconds, the entire room was applauding. Not polite applause this time. Real applause. Standing ovations from at least half the room. As Sarah walked back to her seat, she saw the shock on their faces. The shame. The realization that they had completely misjudged her. But the night wasn't over. After the speeches, the event moved into the networking portion. This was where the real business happened, where deals were made and reputations were built or destroyed. A man approached Sarah. He was short, balding, nervous-looking. His name was Professor James Davidson, and he taught at Oxford. "Mrs. Wright," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "I just wanted to say, I've read your work, your paper on adaptive interface design. It was brilliant, truly groundbreaking." Sarah smiled, surprised. "Thank you. That means a lot. I had no idea you were Daniel Wright's wife. I'm sorry for not recognizing you earlier." "It's all right." More people started approaching. A woman from MIT who had used Sarah's research in her own work. A man from Google who wanted to collaborate on a project. A researcher from Japan who had been following Sarah's career for years. And slowly, the narrative in the room began to shift. "Did you know she has 3 degrees? I heard her research is used in hospitals worldwide. Cambridge PhD. That's not easy to get." Daniel didn't marry down. He married someone as accomplished as he is. Catherine Ashford stood in the corner, watching this unfold, her face pale. She approached Sarah with hesitant steps. "Sarah, I owe you an apology." Sarah turned to face her. "Do you?" "Yes. I was awful to you. I assumed things about you that weren't true. I judged you without knowing anything about you." "You did," Sarah agreed. Catherine looked uncomfortable. "I'm sorry. If I had known you were so accomplished." "Stop," Sarah interrupted. "That's exactly the problem. You shouldn't only treat people with respect if they're accomplished. You should treat everyone with respect because they're human beings." Catherine's mouth opened and closed. She had no response. "I don't need your apology," Sarah continued, her voice gentle but firm. "But maybe you should think about why you only see value in people after you know their credentials." Sarah walked away, leaving Catherine standing there. Robert Lancaster tried to approach Daniel later in the evening. "Daniel, I need to apologize. What I said at dinner was completely out of line." Daniel looked at him coldly. "You weren't just out of line, Robert. You were cruel. And cruelty is something I don't tolerate. I understand. I hope this won't affect our business relationship." "It already has," Daniel said. "The deal we were discussing? It's off. I don't do business with people who disrespect my wife." Robert's face went white. "Daniel, please. That deal is worth £50 million. And my wife is worth more than all the money in the world. So no, the deal is off." Margaret Chin, who had laughed at Sarah during dinner, tried to make amends by talking about her own research. But Sarah politely excused herself. "Some people don't deserve your energy or your time." As the evening wound down, Sarah and Daniel stood on a balcony overlooking London. The city sparkled below them, lights twinkling like stars. "You were incredible tonight," Daniel said, pulling her close. "I was just being honest." "I know. That's what made it incredible." He kissed the top of her head. "I'm sorry you had to go through that. Don't be. I needed it. I needed to stand up for myself. I needed to prove, not to them, but to me, that I belong wherever I choose to be." Daniel smiled. "You know they'll talk about this for months. Let them talk. I've got work to do." And she meant it, because Sarah Bennett wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. She had just gotten started. The next morning, Sarah's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. She woke up to hundreds of notifications. Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Even her email was flooded with messages. "Daniel," she called from the bedroom. "What's happening?" Daniel walked in with 2 cups of coffee and his laptop. He sat on the edge of the bed, looking both proud and worried. "You've gone viral," he said simply. "What?" He turned the laptop toward her. There on the screen was a video. Someone had recorded her speech from the gala and posted it online. It had been viewed 12 million times in less than 12 hours. The comments were overwhelming. "This woman is incredible. I'm crying. This is what real success looks like. She destroyed them with grace and intelligence. We need more people like Sarah Wright in the world." But there were negative comments too. People defending the wealthy guests. People claiming Sarah was playing the victim. People who still insisted she was a gold digger. Sarah put the laptop aside. "This is too much. I know it's overwhelming," Daniel said. "But look at this." He showed her another screen. News articles. Dozens of them. Tech billionaire's wife delivers powerful speech on class and achievement. Who is Sarah Wright? the brilliant scientist behind TechVision's new foundation. From council flat to gala, Sarah writes inspiring journey. And then Daniel showed her something that made Sarah's eyes water. An email from a teenage girl named Amy in Manchester. Dear Dr. Wright, I saw your speech online and I cried. I'm 15 years old and I live in a small flat with my mom and 2 younger brothers. My mom works at a supermarket and we don't have much money. Kids at school make fun of me because I wear the same clothes every week and I can't afford the things they have. But I'm good at math and science. Really good. My teachers say I could go to university if I work hard enough. But I was starting to think maybe I don't belong in that world. Maybe university is for other people. Rich people. Smart people who went to fancy schools. Then I saw you. I saw how those people treated you and how you didn't let them break you. I saw how you stood up there and told the truth about where you came from and what you achieved. You gave me hope. You made me realize that people like us, we can make it too. We can succeed. We just have to work hard and believe in ourselves. Thank you for showing me that it's possible. Amy. Sarah read the email 3 times. By the 3rd time, tears were streaming down her face. This, she whispered. This is why it mattered. This is why I had to speak up. Daniel wrapped his arms around her. You changed that girl's life. Maybe. I hope so. But Amy wasn't the only one who reached out. Over the next few days, Sarah received hundreds of emails. From students. From single parents. From people working 2 jobs to make ends meet. From immigrants trying to build new lives. All of them saying the same thing. Thank you for representing us. Thank you for showing us we matter. Sarah read every single email, and she responded to as many as she could. Meanwhile, the consequences of that night began to unfold. Robert Lancaster's company lost 3 major contracts. Word had spread about how he had treated Sarah, and other businesses didn't want to be associated with him. His reputation, built over decades, was damaged in a matter of days. Catherine Ashford resigned from the board of 2 charity organizations after her behavior became public knowledge. She released a statement apologizing, but the damage was done. Margaret Chin tried to reach out to Sarah multiple times, wanting to meet for lunch and clear the air. Sarah never responded. Some bridges, once burned, don't need to be rebuilt. But the best news came 2 weeks after the gala. Daniel and Sarah were having breakfast when he showed her an article. Look at this. It was a piece in The Guardian about funding for accessibility research. The article mentioned that 5 major tech companies had pledged a combined £200 million to support research into technology for people with disabilities. They mentioned your speech, Daniel said, smiling. They said you inspired them to take action. Sarah stared at the article in disbelief. £200 million? Your words changed things, Sarah. Real, tangible things. She put her head in her hands and cried. Not from sadness. From relief. From joy. From the overwhelming feeling that maybe, just maybe, all of it had been worth it. That same week, Sarah officially launched the TechVision Accessibility Foundation. The foundation would provide grants to researchers, fund scholarships for students studying accessibility technology, and support projects that made technology more inclusive. The response was immediate. Applications flooded in. Students from all over the UK, from all backgrounds, applying for scholarships. Researchers proposing innovative projects. Organizations wanting to partner. Sarah worked 16-hour days reviewing applications, setting up the foundation's structure, building partnerships. It was exhausting, but it was the most fulfilling work she had ever done. One evening, Daniel found her at her desk at midnight, still reviewing scholarship applications. Come to bed, he said gently. Just a few more. These applications, Daniel, they're incredible. There's a girl from Birmingham who wants to develop software to help blind children learn coding. A boy from Glasgow who's designing prosthetic limbs with better neural interfaces. These kids are brilliant. I know, but you need to sleep. Sarah looked up at him, her eyes tired but bright. Do you know what the best part is? None of these kids come from wealthy families. None of them went to expensive private schools. They're just smart and hardworking, and they need someone to believe in them. Like someone believed in you. Exactly. Daniel pulled her to her feet. Come on. The applications will still be there tomorrow. As they walked upstairs, Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not because everything was perfect. Not because everyone accepted her now. But because she knew she was doing exactly what she was meant to do. 6 months later, Sarah stood in a lecture hall at Imperial College London. In front of her sat 50 students, young people from all over the country, some from wealthy families, but most from backgrounds similar to hers. They were the first recipients of the Tech Vision Accessibility Foundation scholarships. "Welcome," Sarah said, smiling at their eager faces. "I'm Dr. Sarah Wright, and I'm here to tell you that you belong here." She paused, letting those words sink in. Some of you might be feeling out of place right now. You might be looking around at this prestigious university and wondering if you really deserve to be here. You might be worried that you're not smart enough, not prepared enough, not good enough. Several students nodded. I understand that feeling, because I felt it too. When I first came to Cambridge for my PhD, I was terrified. Everyone around me seemed so confident, so polished, so sure of themselves. And I was just a girl from East London who had worked in a call center to pay for her undergraduate degree. The students leaned forward, listening intently. But here's what I learned. Belonging isn't about where you come from. It's not about how much money your parents have or what school you went to. Belonging is about what you do when you're here. It's about how hard you work, how much you care, and how you treat the people around you. Sarah walked across the front of the room, making eye contact with different students. You earned these scholarships, not because someone felt sorry for you, not because we needed to fill a quota, but because you are genuinely talented. You submitted exceptional applications. You showed promise and dedication and creativity. You belong here because you proved that you belong here. A girl in the front row wiped her eyes. The road ahead won't be easy. People will doubt you. Some will look down on you because of where you're from. Others will assume you're only here because of the scholarship. Let them assume. Let them doubt. Because you're going to prove them wrong by doing excellent work and staying true to who you are. Sarah thought about that night at the gala. About the whispers and the judgment. About how small they had tried to make her feel. I'm not going to tell you that success will make all the criticism go away. It won't. Even now, after everything I've accomplished, there are people who think I don't deserve to be married to Daniel. People who think I'm just lucky. People who can't see past their own prejudices. She smiled. But their opinions don't define me. And other people's opinions don't define you either. You define yourself by your actions, your character, your choices. The lecture hall was absolutely silent. So here's my challenge to you. Work hard. Be brilliant. But also be kind. Remember where you came from. Help others who are trying to climb the same mountain you're climbing. Because the point of success isn't to join some exclusive club. The point is to reach back and pull others up with you. After the lecture, students surrounded Sarah with questions. She stayed for 2 hours talking to each one, offering advice, listening to their dreams and fears. One young man, a scholarship recipient named David from Liverpool, pulled her aside. "Dr. Wright, can I ask you something personal?" "Of course. Do you ever regret it? Marrying someone so high profile? Dealing with all the public scrutiny?" Sarah thought about the question carefully. "No, I don't regret it. Because Daniel and I, we built something real. Something based on mutual respect and love. Yes, the public attention is difficult sometimes. Yes, I've dealt with cruelty and judgment. But I've also been able to use that platform to create this." She gestured around the room. "To create opportunities for people like you. So no, I don't regret it." David nodded, looking relieved. "Thank you. That helps." That evening, Sarah and Daniel hosted a small dinner at their home. Just close friends. Real friends. People who had stood by them through everything. Professor Davidson was there, along with a few of Sarah's colleagues from Imperial College. Daniel had invited some of his employees, people who had supported his marriage from the beginning. As they sat around the table, laughing and talking, Sarah felt overwhelmed with gratitude. This was her life now. Not the fancy galas or the public attention. But this. Good people. Meaningful work. Love and friendship and purpose. "I want to propose a toast," Daniel said, standing up with his glass. "To Sarah, the smartest, kindest, strongest person I know. Thank you for teaching me that real wealth has nothing to do with money." Everyone raised their glasses. "To Sarah." Sarah stood up, her eyes shining. "And I want to toast all of you. Thank you for seeing me for who I am. Thank you for supporting this foundation. Thank you for believing that the world can be better, fairer, kinder." Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Sarah and Daniel sat in their favorite spot in the house. A small reading nook with a window overlooking the garden. "Happy?" Daniel asked. "Very," Sarah said, leaning against him. You changed a lot of lives this year, including mine. We changed each other's lives. That's how love works. Daniel kissed her forehead. What's next for the foundation? More scholarships. I want to expand to other countries. And I'm thinking about starting a mentorship program, pairing scholarship recipients with established researchers. You're going to change the world, aren't you? Sarah laughed. I'm going to try. One student at a time. 3 months later, Sarah received another letter. This one was from Amy, the 15-year-old girl from Manchester, who had first written to her after the gala speech. Dear Dr. Wright, I wanted to update you on my life. I've been working really hard in school. My grades are excellent, and my teachers think I have a real shot at getting into university. But the best part is this. I started a coding club at my school. We meet twice a week, and I teach other kids basic programming. Most of them are like me, from families that don't have a lot of money. But they're brilliant and eager to learn. I told them about you. About how you didn't let anyone make you feel small. About how you used your success to help others. And now they believe they can succeed too. You didn't just change my life, Dr. Wright. You started a ripple effect. And that ripple is spreading. Thank you for showing me, for showing all of us, that we're enough exactly as we are. Amy. Sarah read the letter twice, then carefully folded it and placed it in a special box where she kept all the letters from students. This, she thought, this is what it's all about. Not the money or the fame or the recognition, but the knowledge that her life, her story, her struggle meant something. That somewhere out there, a girl in Manchester was teaching other kids to code. That 50 students were starting their university journeys with hope and support. That people were beginning to understand that your background doesn't determine your future. Sarah Bennett had started as a girl from a council flat who loved computers. And she had become a woman who changed lives. Not by becoming someone else. Not by forgetting where she came from. But by staying exactly who she was and refusing to let anyone make her feel less than she knew she was worth. And in the end, that's the most powerful thing any of us can do. Stand firm in who we are. Work hard for what we believe in. And reach back to help others climb up beside us. Because that's what real success looks like. Not diamonds and galas and expensive dresses. But kindness and purpose and the knowledge that we made the world a little bit better than we found it. That's Sarah's story. And maybe, just maybe, it can be your story too. Thank you for listening to this story. If it touched your heart, remember, you are enough exactly as you are. Your worth isn't determined by other people's opinions. It's determined by your character, your choices, and your courage to keep going even when the world tries to make you feel small. Stay strong. Stay kind. Stay true to yourself. And never, ever let anyone convince you that you don't belong.